Hello, today I'm going to be talking about some eyeshadow palettes that I love and some that I don't love so much. I'm also going to be swatching all of them so you can see the pigmentation and colours of them all. So let's get started. I'd say the palette out of all of these, which I use the most literally every day, is the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. This palette, I don't know what I did before I had this palette. As you can see, there's just loads of, well, it's an all matte palette. But they're all very neutral colours, which is amazing. You can use this with any eye look. So well, sometimes I just use this alone, but most of the time I just use it as like a base, and then I would add from other palettes because of course these are all very neutral. But there's shades in here for everything. So like setting, I use like the lighter colours for setting the lid, and then these medium tone colours for the crease, and the darker colours for defining and stuff. And really, if you're just into like everyday neutral eyes, that like, you would never need another palette. This one is amazing, and also the quality of the eyeshadows is really good. Like they're very creamy, very pigmented. They're just, well, I'll insert swatches so you'll see, but they're very amazing. Okay, so the second palette that I want to mention is a palette that I've used in both my makeup tutorials that I've recorded, and that is the Juvias Place Masquerade palette. Well, really any Juvias Place palette. I have this one, and I also have the Nubian one palette. These are so good. The quality of the eyeshadows for the price is amazing. Not even for the price. The quality of the eyeshadows for any eyeshadow is just, they're so pigmented. This palette obviously is got a lot of brighter shades, but if you cover this up, there's like a good selection of neutrals. And also what I like about this palette is there's a good amount of shimmers and mattes, so really you could just create a look using just this palette. And I also really like the fact that there has like the brighter colours at the top, and then like just a neutral palette, which is awesome. But you also get these really colourful shades, which I feel like always inspired me to create a more colourful look, because otherwise I would just be doing neutral every day. Of course, because neutral's comfortable. Neutral's good. But it's nice to have some colours, so in case you did want to do something. And also, can we talk about the packaging? I love this. This is so cool. The third palette that I want to mention is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. Don't mind mine, it's very dirty. That's because I use it so much. Before I had the Kat Von D, I think I used to use this one every day, because it has a nice selection of, well, mattes and shimmers. So of course, this is a palette that you could create a whole look with. It's got base colours, crease colours, lid colours, everything you could want. And also, of course, it smells like chocolate, which is also a plus. I love the colours in here. I feel like they are neutral, but they're quite warm tone, which is, well, that's the look I tend to go for. So it's got like pinks, purples, orangey browns, that sort of thing. There's also greeny browns, and again the texture of these is just so, they're so pigmented and so, I hate the word buttery, but they are really buttery. Fourth palette, and I think the last palette that I want to mention, is the Morphe palette by Kathleen Lights. Now I have some of the Morphe palettes which are going to be in the dislike section, unfortunately, but this one, but I feel like that's mostly the case with Morphe palettes, the ones that are created by like YouTubers and beauty gurus and things, because they get to select their own colours and they make some of their own colours. They usually pick like the more pigmented shades, which is the problem with Morphe palettes, because you get so many shades, and don't get me wrong, they are amazing. You get so many shades for such a low cost, and most of them work very well, but you do get a few which are just like, you don't get any pigmentation from them. They can be quite chalky. Whereas this one, they're all very buttery. They're all very pigmented, and also the colour selection is amazing. As you can see, a lot of neutrals, and then this green just really stands out, which I really like. I don't really think green suits me because it might have a very yellow undertone, but I always want to use this shade. I swatch it so much. But yeah, just an amazing palette. Again, lots of mattes and also shimmers, so you could create a full look with this palette, and there's a shade for everything. Okay, moving on to 4 palettes which I don't really love. The first one is this tiny little Chanel one. I used to really love this when I first bought it, but when I first bought it I didn't know much about makeup. I feel like this was one of my first palettes, and it's not bad, it's just I find that they can be a bit chalky, and when you swatch them with your finger you do get quite a lot of pigment, but I feel like when you use a brush they can be quite sheer and hard to build up. And as well as that, there's no, well of course you're not going to get, well it's going to be difficult to get a full look out of such a small palette, but they're all very like shimmery. I wouldn't say shimmery, they're kind of like a satin finish, but they have glitter in them, which is a bit odd. But the colours are very nice, but I just don't think it's worth the money because of course it's Chanel and it's very expensive. You could easily get something, well I think of better quality from some of these other palettes. Okay, so the second disappointing palette that I wanted to mention was this Sephora palette. This is very old now, I got this very long time ago. I'm not sure if they still sell them. I think they do though. I do recall seeing them online. But this, of course, like the shades are nice. It's a neutral palette. There's a purpley, a greeny, so it's a nice shade selection. But I feel like the quality of the shadow just isn't there. Like the matte ones aren't too bad. They're quite good. I used to use these two for my eyebrows, which is why this one's hit pan. But yeah, the matte ones are decent, but the shimmery ones, just the colour payoff is, they just come off very patchy, very glittery. And yeah, that's not what you want from an eyeshadow. And this isn't cheap either, so you could get a better palette for the price. Last disappointing product I want to talk about is the Morphe 35W. This palette, it's just, the shades are beautiful, like this is a beautiful palette, but I just find there's a few shades in here which are very pigmented and the colour payoff is amazing, but there's just other shades which you just, like, picking it up with your finger you do get, like, pigment's not bad, but when you use a brush they just don't show up. For the price, I mean, at least half of the colours in here are good, like they're nice to work with, they're buttery, but the other half are just, you're either getting no pigment, it's patchy, or it's just very chalky. Which is why I'm disappointing, because although everything in here is great, there are some nice shadows, and for the price, I mean, I would say it's still pretty worth it. Although, like I said, with Morphe, I tend to find that it's a safer bet to go with like the palettes that have been created by a beauty guru or influencer. There's no hate to Morphe, I still love this palette, just not everything in it. And the 35O by Morphe, this one, I find that the colours are a lot more reliable. And this is just, let me open it. This is just beautiful. So that's it for my loved it and slightly disappointed by it eyeshadow palettes. I hope they help you if you were looking to buy any of these or if you wanted to see swatches. And yeah, thanks for watching.